so long as I'm in this Oval Office.
Well, as weird as a video that can be, welcome to Ubermemes. I'm Andreas Xirtus. This is my buddy Will, or Vera Chandra. How you doing, man? Where are you again? All of it.
I'm in Lviv. I'm in the west of Ukraine, and
Live in La
happy to be here.
Live in La Viva Loca, I think is
That's right.
that's pretty crazy. Well, I mean, so everyone's telling us that everyone's dying, or that it's over now. Is there a middle ground? Like, what's really going on around you?
Ooh, it's a big bag of potato chips to
Yeah.
open. Yeah, I would say that in general, it's still a very hot war.
Yeah.
I mean, especially all the news that came out today with I think there's some ways Zelensky is going to try to make getting into NATO quicker, and also Putin and the Kremlin just like announced basically like these 4 regions, right? The
Yeah.
Kherson, Lugansk, Donetsk, and Zaporozhye regions are now part of Russia. So, yeah.
Yeah, the world's carving, and so Russia's trying to say it's over, but then it doesn't seem like it is at all. And then also there's the Crimean highway. You know what's going to happen with entrances into Europe. So, I mean, around you, I've talked to a few Ukrainians. I've never met a Ukrainian who isn't ready to just die for what they fight and believe in. So, I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to just end anytime soon, does it? Or what do you think?
I don't think it will. Right now, it's a lull because of the weather. The weather plays such a big impact on the war here, because, like, even when we saw, they were able to move quite quickly in the wintertime, but as soon as spring rains came, things just get bogged down. And we're seeing that now again, where there's lots of rain in Ukraine, and you just can't move tanks and big armory and stuff like that through. So, but I mean, there's basically, it's the front line's too big, right? It's just to really hold on to that much land, you need so many people.
To agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can talk about different regions of what's kind of going on there, at least of what I know. But I can say, in general, there's been, like, how to say, successes on one side for the Ukrainians, and successes for the Russians, basically. And but yeah, sometimes you just hear really sad, like, what was the other day I heard something about, like, just a huge line of ambulances going out of one region, basically because all the hospitals are filled up,
Right.
And that could be that's a reference to, like, casualties on the Ukrainian side. But then we know, like, the figures of Russians are massive, as well, as far as the Ukrainians go. I mean, it's like 65,000, not like 6,500, like 65,000 dead. And just, you can multiply that for injured, right? So I didn't know if I answered your question.
No, I mean, it does. It shows what's happening is that, it's not slowing down, and they're too like each other to stop fighting, which is also kind of interesting. I mean, they are very similar peoples, even if they don't like each other's dictator or president or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not that different. And then getting down to the fact that they all love that territory because they have this historical precedent to care about this area. I mean, what do you think about that? The connections there. I know you're interested in history and mysticism as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a magical. I always wanted you to come here and just like now I got a car basically last year around this time.
What kind of car did you get?
I got a 2005 Honda CR-V.
Oh, sweet. Yeah,
and
that's very.
I'll tell you, man. I'll show you some pictures. It looks like a little tank. It's got these big wheels. Yeah, it's got these big wheels too. That I bought it in Poland, and I had to go to Lithuania to get. Anyways, bringing it, I tried 3 times getting it across the border. The 3rd time, I got lucky. I paid off the right person. I got it into Ukraine.
Dude, Hondas are weird in Europe too. Hondas stick out. They're special.
Yeah.
But yeah. I have a Honda
Yeah,
too.
so
They will definitely
you
be
do?
the best.
Okay.
Yeah, best car for
Yeah.
like living in that kind of environment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to fix. And anyways, it gets around. And then I was just thinking, "God, I want some of my friends to come here and stay, like not just like a few weeks, but like a month or two, and I can just show them all the things at least that I found and go deeper, you know." And I was just thinking, if Andreas comes here, like it would be so nice. It would be so nice. There's so much. I mean, going into the Tartarian world, with
Right.
whether it's architecture just within Kiev, like if you were to go to Peters or Moscow, it's just amazing. There's so much to, and Lviv's amazing. It's switched hands many times here,
Right.
like as far as once being Hungarian, Polish, and Ukrainian. So there's so much to unveil, and as well as that, just there's still some mystical things here that like blow your mind. You'll meet somebody. I met this lady the other day I lived in a region called Cherkasy. It's right in the middle, right smack in the middle of Ukraine. And there's no like battles or war going on right now there. But there was this lady I met, and she literally, and I had a translator, of course, and she's like this big lady. She looks like, like an agent of Brihaspati, right? An agent of Jupiter, because like she has this knowledge, and she's got this heaviness, and she looks at you in the eyes, and then she closes her eyes, and she literally goes X-ray vision, and she's like, yeah, this is it. And I have like MRIs of problems that I have in my body, and she doesn't need anything.
Like full
She just
Reiki,
goes,
wow.
yeah, full on. And I was like, wow, I've heard about these kind of people. I know they exist. I have faith, of course, that these things are real. But it was like the first time I actually met somebody, and she just closes her eyes, and she just names off all the shit that you already know that's wrong with you in your body, and then tells you more, of course.
Wow, see, that's the thing. So this idea of like wives' medicine, old wives' tales or whatever, but connecting that to folk medicine. And we've always heard about this weird, the Eastern Europeans and their folk medicine. But I mean, maybe what do you see about it? What did you notice? Is it connected to Ayurvedic, or is it just completely its own? Or
yeah, there's so many connections with, I mean, I have, of course, this background of being really, really deep into, I lived in India and traveled there for 6-7 years, and lived in ashrams basically almost now my whole life. It's getting that point. So my early 20s was just full on. I just went to India, found my teacher, and all these things. So we can get into that later. But
yeah,
what I found in Ukraine, man, it's just, it really has all of that kind of, it's like being in India, but it's not like a million Indians, a million and a million times a million, like soaked, swimming through, this kind of, there's mysticism here. Of course, a very strong faith of Orthodox Christianity is here, but you can feel it's mixed, with the prior Slavic, you can say ancient paganism, or whatever you want to call it. I would consider that all cultures, if you go back far enough, they all have Vedic understanding. Right. So whether that's the earth is a mother and the sun is your father, or many, many gods and goddesses in that side of things. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it seems like there's that connection to both. I mean, you've got a bunch of gods outside of a trimurti, a bunch of saints outside of a trinity, and then there's everyone connects it to the Greek roots, but the Greek roots, they go back to the Sanskrit roots as well. So much of the language is so many Slavic words are connected to Sanskrit directly.
Yes. Lubov is love, right, in Russian. And there's a very close Sanskrit word called, the name is lolium. Lolium. It means very strong desire, very strong desire. So, and again and again and again,
there it is. Yeah.
You just, I'm listening to a lot of lectures, like, about this Vedic thing, Vedic spirituality. I'm listening to them and reading them also sometimes in Sanskrit. I learned the Cyrillic alphabet just because I already knew songs
Wow.
in how to say Roman alphabets, but basically the translation from Sanskrit or Bengali, and then you read it in the Roman diacritics, right? That's what you say. Anyways, so you can actually read it, because I can't read the script from India. Basically, I can't read Sanskrit script. So then I'm reading these things, but then there's a whole new script that I'm presented to, like 2012 that I came to Ukraine first time, and I was like, oh, but I know these songs, right? So then I started learning it, and then I would walk down the street and be like, oh, that's apteka, or that's produkt. And then I understood, okay, that's where I get food, and that's where I get drugs, you know?
That happened to me when I was reading in Russian. I was like, wait, organism. Oh man, they got me. Like, oh, and then but like so much of it is divided because you've got this Roman division. So many of the words that we think of as not as Greco word, the more Sanskrit words. Then you look at Latin, and the Latin words, there's all sorts of backwards words that if you flip the word backwards phonetically, it sounds like the Sanskrit equivalent as well. So there seems like there's a huge divide here on the Western hemisphere, Western Europe. We're thinking backwards to Sanskrit in some cases on purpose, almost like maybe it's an accident. Maybe we just read some book that was supposed to be printed backwards or something, but it doesn't seem like the Slav. Exactly. Who knows? I'm just trying to be naive on purpose, but it seems like the further east you go, they're closer to the way it was originally. Does it feel like that?
Yeah, it does. It does. There's values here. Also, the tie to India is a huge agrarian society, right? That's it. That's part of their lifestyle. And I think that's when you go there and you're shocked, by the pollution, all these things, because they still haven't been able to shift to Western plastic plates, you know what I mean? Or products, it's just like that consumption, that consumer, it's just not part of it. Because when I first went to India and I saw this firsthand, I was like, oh wow, there's leaf plates, this is awesome. Like there's some lady just making leaf plates all day. And they used to cook in in pots made of earth, right? Earth and pots. That's how they originally used to do. Yeah, and they finished and they throw it right back into the
back up. So and if you littered the food comes in with seeds in a wrapper. So like you throw the banana peel and a little bit of left of whatever fruit seeds, then that litter grows into more food. So it's so counterintuitive the way we've created something toxic out of it. Should have been able to reproduce naturally.
Right. Exactly. And then a few years later, I saw, like the paper plates became more cheaper, like now they're serving paper plates in the temples. This is weird, and then plastic cups. And they're like, okay, now it's all fucked,
Dude, styrofoam completely destroyed everything. Yeah. I mean, but you went to India. How old were you when you first let's even go further. When did you start to get interested in stuff? And where did you grow up originally?
Okay, before I open up that, I just wanted to make that tie back to Ukraine. Is that when you're here, you see how much they respect the land, and the soil here is so rich. Everything you put into the soil just grows, and they respect that and understand that. And I was with one of my my godmothers here, and she took me out to her garden, which is, they call them dachas, right? They're not in the city, they're outside, right? And she's like showing me all this amazing, tomatoes, fresh apples, like apples you can't get anywhere. That's the hardest thing. When going back to America is eating the food there. It's so different, it's all plastic and shit. And she's like, now you understand why the Russians want to go on this land. I was just like, yeah.
No, but for real, that's a big part of it. I mean, it's the women and the fruit. I feel like
God, it's not totally, totally. Oh my God. Yeah. So, so going back to your question, when did my travels all started?
Well, you grew up, and when did you get interested in the Veda and everything?
Okay. Yeah. Little bio. So I was born in LA. interestingly, one of my babysitters was Mila Jojovic,
Oh, really?
or we sometimes like to call her Yo-Yo Bitch,
Yeah, right.
because you can change the V to the B. It's okay, So, and
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was just a friend of my sister's, and you're in LA, you just know people, right? And then they would go on modeling together and that sort of thing. My mom was a big hippie back in the day. She was, I think, on the cover of Life magazine when they like came to one of the main hippie communes in Oregon. Yeah. So she actually was on this really big, and so I had this whole hippie family in California.
Any connections to Laurel Canyon?
No, not that I know. It was based actually in Santa Cruz. The originators of that commune in Southern Oregon, they came from Santa Cruz. So
right.
Grateful Dead guys and just like original Bay Area hippies.
Yeah, Ken Kesey. All right.
Yeah. Making acid in the mountains of Oregon,
Right.
That's basically. So my mom, she grew up in Florida. She hitchhiked to Oregon. That's kind of her thing. She stayed in California and Hawaii, and I have an older brother and sister, and we're all from different fathers and that sort of thing. She met my father in LA. They got tired of traffic, moved to Tucson, Arizona when I was 7. So I grew up with Carlos Castaneda, and all of that environment, sweat lodges, and I didn't get into heavy into peyote ceremonies, but I read enough about that culture to be fully intrigued by like 13, right?
Right.
And then, all this other stuff came to me. I met Tai Chi guy who like gave me all these books on Mantak Chia and like, his crazy internal alchemy.
Wow. So how old were you at that? So you're like 13,
13.
Wow.
I was 13, 14.
Okay,
and I was
cool.
trying to show this stuff to my friends, like, hey,
right,
this is real. And then they're just like, yeah, but like, what do we do with this? Like hang weights off your balls, like that.
Does
was
it
literally
get you chicks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so I got into music, I got into metal. That's what I forgot to say. I really appreciate that intro, man. Whoever did that, just like, please give them my good respects, because I'm a big metalhead. I always have been.
I can't remember if that's Memory Man. I have to check. I forget. Like one of my friends made that one, but yeah, it's
really
like,
nice. I love it.
It feels right, doesn't it? It's so weird because like sometimes the Veda and Shiva, you can get Shiva with metal, but I think even Krishna. I think even Krishna
definitely,
because of the snakes.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna throw some things at you, but I mean, come on.
Right there, the
cover of Bhagavad Gita. They're in the middle of a war.
Is that in Cyrillic? So was that in Cyrillic? That was
yeah.
Nice.
That's in Cyrillic.
Wow. So are you going around trying to are you meeting a lot of Hare Krishnas or Vedic aware people in Ukraine, or are you introducing them to it?
I mean, I mean, we basically are working with people, but we try to organize with newcomers. We're not really trying to connect with so much with other Hare Krishna groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big mixing melting pot.
Yeah,
now
it's 2022 finally. Yeah.
So everyone's got their own thing, their own their own vibe, their own. I mean, Noel Kishore, like kind of like his style of he's a pundit. He's a real scholar when it comes to things. So he has his style, and but you can understand he's not the like the guy who's gonna try to put a book in your hand and say, here, have this book, and then say like, now you got to give me a donation. I mean, there's different moods to the Hare Krishna spectrum. There's quite a big rainbow out there. So I guess to answer that question of like, where do we fit in? What am I actually doing in Ukraine? All this stuff. It might take a little bit of time. But of course, ask questions along the way. So in Tucson, in Arizona, I had an old metalhead friend. He introduced me to the Hare Krishna temple in Tucson. And that's when I was like, all of this stuff starts kind of clicking in with everything else that I previously was into. Tibetan Buddhism, shaman stuff. I was like, okay, now we're like it's kind of like what your show does. Basically, you're trying to get
Dude,
everyone.
I am not quite the Hare Krishnas. Like they did so much even in my life. I'll admit, like of all the places I've been, when I've been hungry, Hare Krishnas have been there for me. When I've been scared or lonely, more importantly, I had like nobody around the time that my wisdom teeth were pulled. Not a huge deal now, but at the time it freaked me out.
That shit's crazy.
Hare Krishnas took me in. You know, I went to one of the services, and you know, it was just really engaging in a non, you know, it was a personal level thing. And anywhere I've ever been in the world, I could be in Brazil or in Paraguay or Argentina, and I never felt dangerous. I could be in a bus in the middle of Paraguay where almost nobody spoke, let alone English, Spanish. They were speaking Guarani Indian languages or maybe a little bit of Portuguese, and then meet a Hare Krishna guy, and he would get me to the safest part of his city when we're traveling 1,000 miles. So I don't know, but always been there for me, right? And that Rose Temple, good people.
Nice. Rose Temple was where?
Oh, in Venice Beach, you know, on Rose Street.
Venice Beach. Oh yeah, on Rose Street. Of course. Yeah. Nice.
But sorry to interrupt. I was gonna say I agree.
Yeah. So you know, I just immediately felt connected to the philosophy and everything. I grew up like my father owned a restaurant in Tucson, and I was, you know, living a normal life just with music, metal, and lots of ganja, and of course, you know, some mushrooms here and there.
In Arizona with the ganja, was it safe? I was so worried about that. I was so worried about Arizona.
Yeah, that was back those days was difficult, man. It's like going through you always understood it was bricks coming through the border, and you're just like, wow, what is this laced with? You know, it wasn't. I burned quite a few brain cells back then for sure. That was not didn't help me with making a decision to go to college or university, which I didn't, you know. So anyways, God, how to make this quick. So I got connected to ISKCON in the beginning, which is International Society of Krishna Consciousness. They published this book, and Swami Prabhupada, who we all know, came in the 60s and did a miraculous thing all over the world. But, you know, his guru wanted him, gave him the directions to do that when he was a grihasta, which means he was a householder. And that was many, many years ago. His guru passed away, and then later he took sannyas, which is like a renounced order, started basically making all these books. And this is just Bhagavad Gita. He did Srimad Bhagavatam, which is like, you know what I mean? That's like, there's 12 of those, you know, like huge. And then he went on this amazing journey to America, to New York in the 60s. And then, you know, miraculous, wonderful things happened. Everyone got charged up, and it was just the right climate. And, you know, that was some strategy by his teacher. It was the Napoleon strategy, which is you hit them at their most, their most powerful. So if you're looking at the global world of, exploitation, right? This kind of global entity of just full on exploitation, then you can see, okay, America's got it. They're the best at it, you know? So that's where he went. He went to New York, and then later went to San Francisco, got actually really hooked up with the Grateful Dead crowd as well there. And more and more people got into it. So that's ISKCON, International Society of Krishna Consciousness, established by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Now, that was my beginning, but it wasn't the end for me.
I should say really quickly for anyone who doesn't know this, that Krishna consciousness, I mean, so in the 60s, there were a lot of cults like Scientology and the Moonies and everything else like that. There were a lot of drug groups and things like that. Hare Krishna was nothing like that at all. They weren't into taking drugs. I mean, you could find people that were into drugs that got their way into Hare Krishna, but that would be something that you would work out of a person and do meditation and prayer on more and more. And they were interested in trading and things, but not necessarily in the Mooney style, getting all of your wealth and burning your clothes. You know what I mean? So it was, you could actually like be like Steve Jobs and hang out with Hare Krishnas and still live your life. So it was an interesting thing because so many people were interested in taking drugs, and here was an alternative that was spiritual, right? So
Yes. So it was radical for already a radical environment.
Exactly.
You know, so everyone's just imagine, everyone's got long hair, like with like sunflower glasses, and then you got these guys all like dressed in white bed sheets with no hair, maybe something popping out the back, but that's it.
Like Jedi.
So like it's
yeah,
they're like Jedis. Yes, spiritual Jedis for sure. So anyways, I understood that I wanted to live in California at a certain point in my life, and I wanted to live in Santa Cruz. And I know all your cool connections in Santa Cruz. I love hearing them. I love hearing the stories, how it is like one of the weirdest places on the planet Earth, for sure. There's some vortex there. I don't know. I was living in my car there. I was doing I had hippie family. I was living with them too. It wasn't just in my car, but eventually I was living in my car.
It's and California, then I would go, man. I did it too.
I would go up Rodeo Gulch Road every morning, sleep at the bottom of the driveway, and then go up to the temple. And then, slowly but surely, I just really just fell in love with a specific group of people, and that's really what it was. I mean, all the gyan, all the philosophy, of course, it was interesting. I love it. It's, it's something I eat. I love it. It's part of my life. But honestly, what's kept me around is something more subtle, and it's with the heart. And something I can't really explain. But I recognize that these people were devoted in a way that I never saw in another place, and I wanted to be with them and help them. So started living in the temples in 2000 and what was it? So I graduated 2003. Yeah, went to massage school 2004, 2005 in Tucson, and then by 2006, I met the devotees in Santa Cruz, and then they introduced me to their teacher, who was living in India at that time, and his health was deteriorating, so he had done 24 world tours over I don't know how many years, maybe 20 years, something like that. And this is him. I'll just have a picture of him. And his name is Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Maharaj. Long name, but you can tell Govinda Maharaj. So yeah, that's him. And he accepted me as a student. I went to India with a one-way ticket. And that was the beginning of, you can say, being connected to not a big community like ISKCON, but a fairly big community that was around the world. And he established, on those 20-something world tours, he established temples and communities all over South America. I've been in Brazil ashrams. I've been in Italian ashrams, Russian ashrams. I don't know if you know where Abkhazia is, but it used to be Georgia. I've been in Abkhazia ashrams, of course, Ukrainian ones, and America, Mexico, and India, of course, and Thailand.
So what's the big division? Is there a big division, or is it just that,
No, I mean, if you just consider the teachers alone, there's just you can say there's a point where it kind of just branches out, right?
It gets too big to be one hegemony. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that. I mean, I'm going to be biased, of course. It's hard for me to not be but I feel like when I was in ISKCON, when I wasn't in ISKCON, when I was associating with the devotees there, I felt like that was more like the elementary, maybe community college version. Mm-hmm. And then when I got in touch with my teacher and his teacher, whom his teacher was a god brother of Swami Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta, Bhakti, the Swami who went to America. He's a god brother of his. His name is Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So when I started reading his books, then I felt like, okay, this is the postgraduate Hare Krishna. consciousness. This is the postgraduate Krishna consciousness philosophy. And it made sense when you look at history too. They used to live with each other. When Prabhupada was living as a householder in Calcutta, he would have his friend, his godbrother, come, and they would discuss all of these things together, late nights, talking philosophy like we're doing now with your dear friend. And even when Prabhupada became very successful in the West, many of his godbrothers, they kind of rejected him, or they kept him because they had their own followers by that point. But my teacher's teacher said, please stay with me. And so they always had a very close connection. And Prabhupada considered my teacher, who was a boy at that time, a young kid, he always considered him to be like his son. So there is this, we call at least for us, these three pillars in our life of pure Siddhanta, means like without any sort of misunderstanding or misconceptions that comes from these three personalities: Prabhupada, his godbrother Sridhar Maharaj, and his disciple, my teacher, Srila Govinda Maharaj. So, whoa, sorry for all of that. That's gonna be way over everyone's heads.
No. See, and guys, this is the jewel, because if you can rewind that part. In fact, I'm gonna timestamp that, and then we'll remember to come back to this moment.
Okay.
But in terms, let's expand on that. Actually, like, don't even stop. The three souls and the three parts of the being, or the three parts that make up the mission. What's the mission? Just keep going. No, don't even listen to me.
The mission. I mean, there's just amazing things. Like, I mean, my teacher's gone. He left the world in 2010. But like some of his his followers, his teachers, have also become, like, you can say, gurus, right? They've also become teachers themselves in different places.
Guru is Sanskrit for bringing out of darkness into light. Is that correct? I think. Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of Sanskrit. There's so much to extract there. So another thing is like heavy, very heavy. So when we play like this big drum, when you're playing very heavy on the drum, you call it guru. And when you play light, you call it lagu, which means like feather.
Yeah.
So
see, that's always weird too, because heaviness and profundity, because like one has to do with weight and the other one has to do with depth, but they're both connected in Sanskrit. I don't know. Sorry, just a tangent, but
yeah. So one of his followers is still doing just unbelievable, amazing stuff, and it really got me interested in spending more time in Ukraine and Russia. He's Russian. His name is Avadut Maharaj. I don't have a picture of him right here, but anyways, I just want to show you this because I really want everyone, if anyone gets anything out of this, at least they can check this out. So this is, if everyone knows, Mahabharat is a famous, massive, epic from India. Okay, within Mahabharat, this massive book is the Bhagavad Gita. It's a little slice of this giant epic story.
Let me sliver them a page of the, just so you guys, this we've talked about this before, and here's
okay, good.
Yeah, pictures
nice. There. Yes, awesome. So this is a app you can download. It's called Mahabharat, Gods and Heroes, and it's like an animated, when you scroll, you're seeing a comic book, but the comic book moves,
like an interactive comic. Oh, that's awesome.
And it's so cool. And I can't wait for you to check it out, Andreas.
I'm gonna too, actually.
It's really, really cool. So just check it out. It's of course a work in progress. It needs to be more funded. More people need to get behind it. But the artist, I mean, you're gonna only see like these kind of interesting faces. The artist
totally
is
good.
He's from Ukraine, and he's posted up in Thailand. And we have a studio in Thailand where we do many different things there.
That is top tier. That looks like any decent DC or Dark Horse comic, like a Fray or something. It's amazing art.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to check it out. And there's scenes from everything. There's scenes of like full on war and all this drama. It's epic. It's epic. So just remember that Mahabharat, Gods and Heroes. It's free to download, and then maybe you pay
if you have
later.
the link will be in the description for anybody who wants to download it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, what can I say? Like, the gift that was given to our hearts from our teachers and our teacher's teacher and so on until infinity, or Krishna, or however you call God, it's still vibrating there, and we still have something to give. I still don't know what is my purpose, but I was super happy to be here when war started. I'll tell you that. I was very happy, and I felt how to say, a surge of I don't know, purpose-filled life.
Yeah, usefulness.
Whatever.
I can tell,
Yeah,
right?
usefulness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
can
got,
do this. Yeah, that's like
yeah.
the right feeling in war. That's the thing. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I was in Lviv actually when it happened. Then I waited. I didn't run anywhere. I just waited a week, and I was like, okay, what is this all about? Sirens are going off all the time, but I was like, what is this? What's going on? And then I went and got my car. I didn't have to go too far into the east, but I went east back towards Kiev, but a little bit different way. And Kiev at that time was crazy. And then I started picking up friends along the way, mainly women and children, and then bringing them to Lviv. And then we all sat together and was like, what do we do now? And we decided to go to Italy, of course.
Gosh.
Let's go have some pizza, So
yeah.
I brought in my Honda CRV, I had 2 kids, their mom, 2 other girls, like women my age, whatever, and a dog. And we all just went to Italy to the ashram.
I used to drive in Croatia, and I'd see like a gypsy family, and it had just about as many people as you. So congratulations, you really fully assimilated. I think that's the full goal. Did you have a chicken? That's the one thing you're missing. You need a chicken. But
I know. I know. I'm thinking of that movie now. Black. Was it? Black Cat, White Cat, something like that. So beautiful gypsy movies.
Yeah. I remember.
God,
but
what is that?
If you were to describe to a freshman in college, and I know this is more of a but how would you describe, because your religion's important. This is what I'm trying to get at. Like as we get on closer to the future, transhumanism, AI, metaphysics, the idea of this avatar storage of memories that can be released through LiDAR and Li-Fi into beings. I mean, the avatars of a being, and the ascension of, it seems like we're just starting to get to the point where technology can explain something that was just super confusing to a lot of people, and all of these things that are intuitively logical about Eastern mysticism, but those things are part of Slavic mysticism, or part of Gnostic or Occidental mysticism. The Europeans clearly believed in we talked about this earlier, the roots of this coming to the Veda. So, I mean, can you explain a bit about what you believe? Like, try to explain it to someone who doesn't understand it yet.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at cycles. I think that's the best thing, because we all know the seasons change, and especially if you're in Minnesota, it's getting colder, and snow will come. So we've heard of this idea of yugas many times, maybe from Indian philosophy and culture, and these are all cycles of, and the yuga thing is more of a cycles of consciousness than you can say like, okay, now it's snowing or whatever. It just means that things are moving in a different direction, whether it's our you can say our lifespan or energy, or just in general materialism and more subtle natures of ourself, right? So we all know in yogic systems you have also these different subtle bodies and that sort of thing. So you're not just flesh and bone, So we understand that now it's a little bit of a darker age, but again, there's always cycles. There's always mini cycles within ages as well. So we don't really know what the future holds, but we can always look and learn from the past, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing about the Tartarians, like the fact that everyone's trying to dig these things up and create a community that doesn't just push stuff back under the rug, And so when we see these megalithic structures and all over the world, right? But we should always also consider what has India been, what is its wealth? And its wealth has always been religion, but we can't it's been so hard for Western minds to figure out how to put that in a box.
I mean, the fact that their religion is that valuable is interesting, because it's not like they didn't have. I mean, you can find the nanotechnology in the obelisk in Delhi, right? The Delhi sphere. You can see examples of great technology, batteries, water clocks for thousands of years. The fact that those things exist, and yet still spirituality is so invaluable. It's above the value of all these things that were just. That's interesting. That is an interesting.
Yeah, and you hear stories in Mahabharata where there's like this woman had a baby, and then they took it apart and it made like 100 kids. Like they were already knew, like cloning is not like a thing for them to be scared about, because it's been in their scriptures for thousands of years.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like
genetic modification of animals, all of it. All
of it. So
flying saucers,
Vimanas, right? Vimanas, right? All these things. So this is what I'm saying about the cycles, is that, yeah, we can, maybe there will be some, how to say, new innovation that, humans that haven't been, I don't know, what's the thing, computer, what are the new cool computers that are supposed to come out eventually? Quantum. Yeah. So
there's so many great buzzwords, though. You're right. It can be, yeah.
And okay, fine. Like, what is our
quantum computers are just metaphysical questions, because a quantum computer has to be able to wonder the question, answer it yes and no at the same time, right?
Nice.
So I mean, the only way that a quantum computer could exist is that a philosopher thought of this, and it's probably based on Vedic mythology. Someone was able.
Yeah. And again, it's like we know the mechanics of these computers that we use today. I mean, they're made of crystals, and the Vedas always have understood that behind even so-called inanimate objects such as rocks and crystals, there's consciousness there. What exactly can we say they came from? Maybe the bones of a dragon or Naga, or massive, like, Satya Yuga, golden age, enlightened yogi. Who knows? We probably won't ever truly know, unless, we have our own personal experience and go back however many.
It's to understand, to know. That's the other thing.
Right. So it's really the spiritual truths that really are the most important concepts within that huge, massive forest of either Vedic scriptures. They teach you everything, right? I mean, they teach you how to have good sex, right? You know what I mean? But
good relationships. They teach you. It's kind of like, so this is something I noticed, interestingly enough, with a lot of traditions where people are having a problem with sexuality. They say, hey, focus on everything else, and then that will resolve itself. Except for in America, in Western medicine, they're like Viagra. You know what I mean? But the symptom. But otherwise, it's like it's a symptom of a bigger problem. And so similarly with with Vedic, well, I don't know if Vedic's the perfect word for it, but with tantric texts, and with even with just in general talking about like the Kama Sutra or something like that. Sexuality is part of the bigger picture there too. It's like, if you work on the sexuality, it'll be part of helping. It's a technology for helping with the relationship between the tantra and stuff. So it's always a bit bigger,
Yes, exactly. And like we have all these different energies. We have sexual energy, and sometimes we use it creatively, and sometimes we use it to, deepen our intimacy with another person and our partner, or whatever. Or let's make babies, right? That's
or let's control society so that they're terrified by it, and then we can manipulate them through it, right?
Right. Let's play the game. Let's pretend we're let's pretend we're God. So.
Siddhartha did that for like 10 years. I'm just saying,
Right. So I also wanted to talk about that, because of course we meaning there are these 10 essential avatars of Vishnu, right? Vishnu avatars, the Das avatar, 10. And Das, and in Russian, 10, very close, right?
Very
Yeah.
decimal, the decimal system. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, so one of them is Buddha. And I wanted to say what is interesting about his life story is not when people go on pilgrimage to go to Buddha's places, right? They either go to Nepal, where he was born, or they go to somewhere in India.
Right.
And that the interesting thing is, why do they go to that place in India? Because they know where he's born. Because that's where he got enlightenment.
Right. That's
under
where he
the Bodhi
decided
tree.
he's like, no more strippers, no more cocaine. That's
right. So now we need to consider, why did he go there? Why?
I would imagine.
Why did he go to that place?
Okay, so is it not because that place was like the biggest party town? To me, I always imagine. I read it Herman Hesse style first time, and so I imagined it was Las Vegas. It was like Manhattan. That was the big city then. Am I wrong? I mean,
no. He went to a specific tree, right? He went to a specific tree, and what we understand, if we go to India and we go to that place, there was things that happened before he was there
right.
and had enlightenment, and that was a holy place for a previous Buddha.
Okay, so it wasn't just that he was near the big city. He had to leave for the tree because of the roots, and the roots. Okay, so what is the deal with the tree? Who else was?
So the tree is also a you can say it's a appearance place, or someone who was born that was very, very, very powerful personality, and he is that place is the actual Buddha that is worshipped in Vedic texts, ancient Vedic texts.
Wow.
Because what was happening is, when the yugas shift, then the same spiritual practices for enlightening someone, moving someone up the chain instead of going degrading, right, spiritually, they also change. The methods change. So a lot like when Jesus went to these temples and say, hey, like, let's stop all this business of like slaughterhouses inside temples. And of course, we look at things got degraded in the sense of sacrifices all around the world, with pyramids and that sort of thing. That was also happening in India.
Yeah.
And why was that happening in India? It's not because they were stupid. It's because they were doing that before and having it actually working. The rains would actually come. There was actually a connection. And those animals, or maybe people, they would ascend to a different level of consciousness, maybe take on a new body, maybe just come out of the fire. So that's what's described in these ancient Puranas and texts. But the thing is that no one was qualified to chant those mantras anymore, to resonate at that frequency anymore. That it shifted because the seasons, everything changes. We're in the material world. So it changed in Kali Yuga 5,000 whatever years ago. And then it was necessary for a Buddha to come, whether it was the one, he also did that same thing, right? He's like, let's practice ahimsa. Let's go back to the basics.
Yeah.
And let's leave all the scripture, all the scholarism aside for some time, and focus on these kind of, core spiritual truths. So that's why I just wanted to bring that up, because it's
an interesting point.
Yeah, it's and you can see that really worked. A lot of Asia is, Buddhism.
A lot of Silicon Valley is Buddhism. It definitely has influenced a lot of people. But I mean, I've always felt, I don't want to be prejudicial here, because I know there's a lot of Buddhism I still don't understand. And but to me, it felt like Krishna consciousness, or trying to achieve bhakti more specifically, was of a higher calling. I'm so scared to say this, because I'm not trying to say, because I think Buddhism is very important, and it's very important to centering people. It can a world full of Buddhists might be a healthier world. You know what I mean? I would say
yes, for sure.
But I just feel like sometimes the mission's not asking as much of. I don't know how to say this.
I mean, you go to Thailand, right? And you see, okay, like in the back, they're drinking and eating meat. They're not like they're living monks externally, but maybe and that's okay. There's nothing wrong.
The Dalai Lama loves pheasant, right? That's his
Right.
favorite because it's the pork of poultry, which is a weird excuse for that.
Pork of poultry. I never heard that.
That's what
Yeah,
he
so I mean-
said. That's what the Dalai Lama said. That I was like,
Okay.
bro.
So I mean, and look, I'm not the kind of guy who's trying to push.
You seem
know,
like a pretty
I,
tolerant guy. Yeah.
I'm not trying to push dietary things or like you should like no sex, no alcohol. Like these are things for progression of one's purity of consciousness. That's it.
Right.
It's not that those things you follow all those codes, then you get bhakti, you get love.
So do you want to try to explain to people why like purity of consciousness and material existentialism are somehow inextricably linked, you know?
I mean, that's might be beyond my abilities to mix that all together, but I mean, I can say that you feel better when you cook your own food than going to McDonald's. You just feel better when someone else puts their energy to that food. And of course, and then if you go to Ukraine someday when things are not war, and just go to a dacha and really grab a tomato from this ground that hasn't been exploited by chemicals and whatever else shit they're spraying constantly. And so there's it really, it all goes back to consciousness. And in Vedic understanding, it's all about, okay, now we got to go to Vedic cosmology, because that's a huge thing, right? There's lower systems, there's 7 hells, 7 heavens, right?
I felt this coming about 5 minutes ago. I'm excited.
Yeah. So
right. So like the things at the fruit level and the ground level, and also you could talk about Jainism too, the idea of not eating, because you have to kill things when they live underground. But sorry, go ahead.
Right. I mean, you can't live on this earth realm without exploiting. Even if you're a breatharian, you're gonna kill microbes because you're breathing. The idea of the yogi, actually the highest ideal is to not breathe. And that's an interesting question, because what are we doing when we're when we're pronouncing death, right? In a hospital, so to say.
Yeah.
That's actually where the yogis,
attainment of bhakti. I don't know.
No, I mean, it's some sort of enlightenment, but again, the idea mostly in Vedic texts is not necessarily about there's bhakti there, but the main focus is actually trying to raise to a higher level of experience of consciousness. So that could be living like an angel in a subtle body. It could be living like some astral yogi that just like floats around the universe and explores different, realms of consciousness, and higher and higher and higher until, there's an idea where, much like in Mormonism, if you speak with Mormons, they get to rise a certain degree to where they get to have their own universe. They get to be their own constructor, right? Yeah. They get to be their own, what is it? Not director, but the Brahma, basically. Yeah. We say Brahma, right? He's part of the...
it's totally that. It's very much a Vedic cosmogenesis. And the Tantra is inextricably linked to Latter-day Saints Mormonism, which I think is that's a very interesting point too. The marriage is not till death do us part. It's a super marriage for the purpose of producing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So then there is all of that. There's that side of Vedic world of just trying to reach higher planetary systems. They're called lokas. It's like different lokas and different higher planetary systems where maybe that's where your guardian angel is hanging out, Yeah. And of course they're much like different relativities. So much like we see ants running around having their life, or a dog, only lives so much, what's it like to live like a dog? It's a relative thing. And then you can degrade, not necessarily degrade, like we don't want to say living an animal's life or a tree's life is bad. It's not about that.
Well, it's harder though. Imagine I had a friend. I had a friend who was he's like, I remember being a soldier in World War I, and then I don't remember anything except for a little bit of light. And I'm like, oh, maybe you were a tree after that for a while. That makes sense. And so, but the tree thing is you're stuck in this field for 100
Right.
years. That's a lot to
Exactly.
deal with. It's a very good medicine, but it's hard on people.
Yeah, and when people need to have the lesson, or well, let's start changing vocabulary. When souls, right? Okay.
Yeah.
We're already accepted.
We're
We're kind of theists here, you know.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go in that direction. So when souls get the body of a tree, they need to learn tolerance, right? They need to learn some tolerance, because that's what you have to have if you're going to be stuck in one place for a long, long time.
Wow,
and
yeah.
have people cut your limbs off, steal whatever, you know. A lot of fruit should just fall down and nourish the tree, right? You know, people are going to take that. They're hungry, right? So, I mean, there's so much tolerance to be lived in a life of a tree, and there's so many stories, of course, about that in the Vedas, about living an animal's life, and a great rishi became a deer, and then someone killed the deer, and then, you know, it just goes on and on. It's endless beautiful stories. Whether you consider them real or not, they're just something to learn for sure. But yeah, then there's the lower spheres, right? So then we have great caverns of Naga, how to say, literally the lower, we can say dimension. Okay, the lower loka from Earth realm is, in Vedic understanding, it's full of very intelligent, very technologically advanced Nagas. And Nagas is a reference to a you can say humanoid creature that is like, you know, has
serpentoid creature.
Serpentoids, yeah. So and it just keeps going. I mean, every loka gets a little bit more, you can say demonic, maybe. You can say demonic, but there's a lesson to be learned in each one of those spheres.
More obsessed with, so that's another thing maybe we should explore. Yeah, obsession with demonicness. What does it mean to be so obsessed with something beyond what your purpose is that you become a demon? Or what is that? What is the thing that is the demon?
The demon, what is the thing? It's a hankar, really. It's ego. It's thinking that you have, that you're independent of everything else. You don't have this relationship with another creature, or even a higher source than yourself, a divine thing. You think that you are the center of the universe, you know, and everything revolves
what
around
you wish for, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why, whether it's impersonalism, in the idea that we become one with a giant almighty light source, energy source, or this other idea of how to say Buddhist nihilism, where you disintegrate and you don't have any more ego left. That's why those things are, they're kind of enemies to bhakti. That's why the devotional path is always kind of looking for this middle way, where we still associate with the material energy that's around us, but we try to change our perspective on it, that it should be used for service and not for, it's all about me, you know. That's that kind of idea.
It seems like, so I mean, I don't know how I'm supposed to like introduce this concept, but so sattvic and rajestic, I think maybe maybe we should talk about that a bit.
Yeah. So how many stories are there about demons and angels, right? And the whole Brahmanda, the whole material universe is all about that play, you know. And I literally think now people are starting to uncover all of these geological, you know, unbelievable geological things. Like there's that giant dragon, like way off in Africa, that's like, you know, swallowing this like Atlantis thing, you know. And there's so much like mud fossil and, you know, all these things.
Stellium 7's channels like huge, right? Yeah,
huge, right? So like, what is that? You know, they could be just corpses of previous epic battles, you know, of ancient however many yugas in the previous, you know, of these demons and demigods. And there is one time where they worked together. They were looking for the nectar of immortality called Amrita. And there's a beautiful, if you ever go to Thailand airport, they have it right there. They have the demons and demigods on one side, and they're pulling a rope. and there's a mountain, and they're trying to churn the milk ocean
Let me see if I
for
can find, if I find this.
Suvarna Bhumi, Suravana Bhumi airport. There it is. Nicely done. God, Andreas, you're so quick. So nice.
This is crazy though. So they're
Beautiful.
like, it's like a dragon tug of war going on here with this.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
And that dragon is Ananta.
And the multiple heads too. You know, think of the Greco mythology, which, you know, in other words, the Greeks didn't just take their language from Sanskrit, you know, more, but that's pretty amazing. Also, the colors, all the colors of different kinds of people too.
Yeah, those are that you can see. Those are the Asuras. That's the Asura family. So they all have little tusks. They put them on them. Wow. Not to say that's exactly what they should look like. You know, these beings are so much bigger and massive than our little human brains.
There's literally a Gucci right behind them. I think. But I mean, the point is the same. That is a representation of the battle, you know. But yes. So the Rajestic and the Sattvic is interesting because you think of like, you know, the caste system in India. You have a group of people that have to be more Rajestic. They have to, like, the soldiers are gonna fight, and that's what that means essentially. I don't know if that's the way to put this, but it's a bit more material than spiritual. And so they end up eating meat and they live a little hard. And so Kundalini versus Bhakti. I mean, the idea of trying to be more sattvic versus the idea of trying to be less sattvic, the idea of being subtle and spiritual versus being fierce. And I mean, is that the right dynamic, or how would you describe that?
Well, there's always, there's always checks and balances in you can say Vedic and also spiritual concepts. So we have teachers, we have gurus, right? So your guru tells you, but also that the kings of Vedic times, which they were Kshatriyas, and great heroes like Arjun, right? Who's taking advice from Krishna, his brothers, the Pandavas, Bhima, all the great heroes in the Mahabharats, they all ate meat because Kshatriya lifestyle was like that. They would go hunting. They would understand that this animal would have the opportunity to also take their life in the future. So they give great respect, and they would eat meat, right? So now that's okay. That's fine. And that is Rajasic. But what would they do? Who would they confide in? So the system that has been, you can say, manipulated as Kali Yuga has progressed, it's called God, it's killing me right now. It's a kind of dharma. It's a kind of way of society. It's going to come to me, where you have Brahmins at the top. It's like you can say it's a pyramid scheme. Okay. You have a few guys at the top who are always interested in spiritual welfare. They're always interested in you going up, not degrading. And then you have below them the Kshatriya kings. They're in charge of all the other masses of people. And then below that are the Vaishyas, which are related to commerce and dedicated towards, you know, making money basically, but also providing different goods, services. And then the Shudras, which are they're not just normal people, so to say. Like, we want to look at them as just like, those are the guys getting exploited. They are artisans. They're artisans. They're master craftsmen, right? So this is kind of this pyramid scheme. So if you have a righteous king, you're pretty good, right? Because he's taking good advice from his Brahmin teacher, who he spends time in the mountains with and meditates with, you know. So that's where the Sattvic, right, at the top, helps keep the Rajasic, or even the Tamas, Tamas is almost like, it's where things get stagnant, right? Tamas energy, it's like stagnant. It's what we feel when we just wake up in the morning. We're like, oh, like this Tamas is lying on
doubting
us.
Tamas, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that helps keep society in this Varnashram Dharma. God, I can't believe I almost forgot that. Varnashram. So it's where you have the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and they're working together for enlightenment. This is not just for keeping society kind of like controlled. It helps with that too. It helps organize for sure. But
also
this is
uplifting, not just static.
Yeah. And this is a lot of the ancient stories we hear about these unbelievable civilizations in India. They were all following this style of Varnashram Dharma. And it wasn't until basically 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, once the change of Kali Yuga, then things were rapidly decreased. There were still a few righteous kings, and we still see the ideal of it in like places like Thailand, where they still hold like the Thai king. He has the name of Ram, right? Usually in his name, his title. So that's referring to an ancient avatar, but also saintly king, Lord Ram.
And you could consider Ramses, Ramosis, a lot of these, there's a lot of connections to this idea.
Exactly. This idea, exactly.
Rama's great.
Yeah, Rama's great. So
did you ever watch Sita Sings the Blues?
Yes.
Radha's great. Rama's good. Rama does what Rama should. It's a pretty good movie.
Oh, let's not get into Ram Leela, because I have that will really sidetrack our Ukrainian experience here. But yeah, another time we can.
I mean, for sure. By the way, I want to get you and Noel on. Do you know Noel from Santa Cruz originally?
Yeah. He was one of my first friends when I started living in the temple in 2008, 9. Yeah.
Sweet.
He was very close.
We'll try to get something together. We should do like more Veda stuff. I think that's important. But
yes, it is. It will give a very good perspective for people who are getting hit by megalithic things, whether it's the astrology too. It's a huge thing, right? And we can consider that. What are the stars in Vedic perspectives? What are the planets? They're beings. They're having their own Leela, their own play in the stellar world. We have a very limited instruments to decipher what it is they're doing, and our time, of course, is very, very short compared to their. But yeah, in that perspective, it's like things are happening above us. It's affecting things here, like war, famine, all of these things. They're being affected by the stars' play. These higher entities.
We got a couple super chats I should read. Let's see.
Yeah.
Stefan says, if someone believes in muons and quantum computers and they don't get vaxxed, it's a darn miracle. They were likely much closer than they realized. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm definitely skeptical of everything, but the idea of quantum, I've not quite been completely dissuaded by quantum yet. I'm sorry, but there are more important things. I think the idea of believing anything is probably, should be careful about what you believe and just try to test all things, right?
Yes, inquiry.
Inside of the Old Ages says, I have not studied any of this, but much of this I was able to intuit from my cosmic kombucha experience at SpaceX. Insight. We've had him on the show. We're going to do another episode soon. We're planning on doing this maybe next week. I just got crazy busy this week, but I think next week we should be able to do it. Insight, hit me up on Discord. Let's set up to go back into that. Travis, I just quit my job. Yeet. Well, yeet. Yes, yeet. I hope it was a good move. I hope you'll be able to do better things. I'm glad you super chatted. I hope that you're not too worried about where your next paycheck's coming from then. Stephen Kalen, 2B dog, just ability and habit of licking your own crumb. I'm not sure what that means, but it doesn't sound too. Wasn't really a question.
I want to tell all my American family, let's say family, because I don't spend so much time in America, and I haven't for the last. It's a bit of a culture shock whenever I go back to States, right. But I will say that if anybody is inspired and doesn't know what to do with their life, there is a project here that I just got involved with Americans. It's called the Altruist Relief Project, and we can put a thing down below about that. Basically, it's this really cool guy named Lucid. He got in touch with me through a fellow Hare Krishna. ARC projects. Nice. And he's building these amazing mobile kitchens that can act as a great heat source, as well as a way to feed people during the winter time, especially as the war progresses here in Ukraine. So I connected him with my Hare Krishna friends here, and they're always inspired to cook prasadam, right, and serve people blessed foodstuffs, right? So I think it's a match made in heaven. We'll see. We're not as organized as other Hare Krishna, organizations. I guess we're more of a disorganization, but we are going to try our best to work with and help Lucid as much as possible. He's going to set up the first tents here in Lviv, and then hopefully with connections we can get them all over Ukraine. So just letting everyone know, if anybody just wants to.
This seems so familiar too, because of the Baton Rouge blood relief. I feel like I've talked to this guy before.
You probably have. Yeah, his name's Lucid. Yeah,
Lucid.
He has a different, like, also a kind of American name, but he lives in Alaska, and he's here right now. He's here in Lviv. So yeah, that's one of the cool new things that are happening to help support people everywhere, but especially here in Ukraine. I think he was successful in Mexico, helping people who were not in a good situation down there, maybe when there was a lot of migration or something like that. So yeah, just wanted to definitely shout out to Lucid and his art projects. And really, if anyone wants to get involved, also, I will be happy to put my email for anybody to get in touch with me. I'm just not much of a social media guy these days, so I don't have much of a presence.
Are you in my Discord yet and stuff too?
No, I need to. I was in Tartarian. I was in the Tartarian. Yeah, and then
and then chaos ensued, destroyed everything. Yeah, I
don't know anything. I don't know anything what happened.
Basically, it got shut down because there was like not enough control over it. I wasn't being careful, but I did. I mean, it was completely, anyone could post anything they wanted to. I don't like to stop people from talking, but we've changed it a bit now. Now the Discord works a lot better. Let me see if I can open up. It's gonna make it. You know who I am, internet. Come on. But yeah, bunny picture. See, there's a lot of security on this now, was my point.
Nice.
You have to know the difference between a turtle and a rabbit. But if you can do that, once you get to the group, there's like a main room, and they're all bridged to the Matrix now. So even if the thing got destroyed, the Matrix has copies of it. And if you've seen the video I did recently, we have a guy who's made the chat rooms are basically waiting to become video game levels, so people could in the metaverse interact and exchange data. So it's a lot bigger than it's ever been before, and we have roles now, so people can be there's certain rooms for certain kinds of conversation, and then everyone can. We figured out a way of timing and slowing things. It's a lot safer of an experience.
Great. And I also, since we're in this topic already, I just wanted to, because it was literally like beginning of 2020. What the hell is the world going on? What's going on? It was you and the I forgot his name, Boogman.
Oh yeah, Victor. Victor's coming back. Yeah, Victor's coming back.
So I was like, come on,
you're the first to hear it.
And I haven't seen like where he went. I don't know where he is. I don't know how to get involved, but I was in the Discord because I wanted to stay in touch with you and Victor. And
I will get you back in touch with Victor, so don't worry. Yeah. That'll happen.
Because I'm in Europe now, so maybe who knows where he is.
I keep crossing my fingers that he'll come on a Saturday. He might be tomorrow on the show. We don't know for sure because he's got a job. He's living his life. He's trying to do his thing. But we're definitely getting back to that place, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But cool. I don't know if there's more that you want to share right now, or if you think that you'd be available on like a Tuesday, a think tank or something like that. It'd be cool to do with Noel.
Let's do that. Because I do have something coming up. I have a call to my lawyer. My lawyer. It's an immigration lawyer. Actually, my wife is Ukrainian, and we've been working on her immigration for the last 2 years.
Epic.
Through all the COVID stuff. So that was been fun. And then everything got pushed back. So I'm trying to make her, and of course the embassy is no longer in Ukraine, right? So I'm trying to make her immigration interview in the embassy in Lisbon, but we'll see.
Wow.
We'll see. So that's where I'm headed next. I'm going to Budapest, see my Hare Krishna friends there in the temple there, and then I'll fly to Lisbon. So I think by Tuesday, I'll either be in Budapest or Lisbon, and I'll try to connect with Noel before that.
Sweet.
For sure.
That sounds awesome. Well, I really now I have to be thinking and praying for your wife and you. I hope that goes well. And everyone here will be, well, it's important, that the bureaucracy can be annoying. So we hope that that's all convenient for you. And I look forward to talking more soon, both about what's going on in the world, but also what's going on in the spiritual realm as well.
Totally. I mean, there's a lot to dive into. I of course I'm more keen on those other topics, but I can also tie some things in the Vedic cosmology and try to connect things there. But I think I gave you the gist of what I can offer to the table.
I like it. I like it in a lens of perspective on subjects, because it's like when we're looking at politics, if we're looking at it through a spiritual lens, I think that's a safer bet than looking at it through a paranoid lens or a whatever bureaucratic lens. I mean, you can get. It's something I've noticed a lot with people. They'll stare at the empty shell of an experience that is political and not see the interpersonal or there's so many levels to things that would be more intuitive for us to analyze even what normal people are talking about already.
Yeah, exactly. And Andreas, can you tell me what have you been doing on your spare time? Like, you're constantly doing stream. Like, do you have any time off just to hang out with maybe a girlfriend, or just watch a movie? I do try. I mean, swim in a lake.
yeah. There's lakes on all sides of me, but winter's coming, so soon it'll have to be ice fishing. So I'm waiting to get my ice fishing. You have to get a fishing license to do that, but I'll wait till it actually is cold enough. But nice. And I like to cook a lot, and I do watch movies, and so I got Audible, and I'll listen to books on tape. I was listening to a book called The First 50 Million's Always the Hardest, which is just about Silicon Valley nerds in 1992. Right. An old forgotten Silicon Valley book. And I work on art. I 3D print stuff.
Nice.
Basically what I'll do is drop stuff, if you heard that. No, basically what I'll do is I'll get I have a laser scanner. I'll scan something. I'll take some time while I'm watching something to slice it up to be the model I want it to be. This is Michelangelo's Moses with the horns at the top there. Wow. And then this will take a day. It could take a day to print. So I'll be wandering around. I'll get up. I'll check on something. I'm also in the process of doing this AI cartoon, which is going to be one of the longest fully AI generated cartoons yet done. I believe. I think it might be the longest one anyone's ever done. I like to try to do something like that occasionally. I don't think anyone ever cares. I never get the Guinness World of who cares who it is, but that takes time. So I'll be walking from one computer doing one robot task to the 3D printer doing another robot task, and then go outside in my wooden Japanese getas and walk through mud and be excited that I'm above the mud level. I don't know. But I think I'm living pretty simply at this point. I don't know what happened, but my life seems really chill now to a lot of the levels. And I'm looking forward to doing more traveling again now that COVID's over, but I'm also I'm just about to get a new laptop. I've had, and thank you for people who've been trying to help me get my new equipment together for the show. But what I'm kind of imagining is the way I do New Year's resolutions is I say I did it. You know what I mean? Not I'm going to do it this year. My New Year's resolution is this year I'll do this. By the end of this year, I'll have finished this. So my New Year's resolution is by the end of this New Year's, I will have accomplished getting the equipment I need to do these shows as best I can consistently. And you can see it's pretty, at the end of the year here, we're pretty close. The Discord's nearly there, but it's funny. The idea of having a hobby is so weird to me because it's imagine you're in a band and you love playing music and that becomes your job, right? I feel like that's,
right.
You know what I mean? Right? Did anyone ever ask, like Siddhartha what his hobbies were, or like? But then again, Shiva had hobbies. You know what I mean? Rama had hobbies. Krishna had hobbies. So that's important. Maybe Rama's. I'm gonna have to revisit Rama.
Yeah.
What he did on his spare time with butter and ghee. Yeah.
Well, that's Krishna. Maybe Rama. Right. Yeah.
Rama first.
And I wanted to tell you, like, and we have a friend who just constantly is giving us cool not printed, laser printed, 3D printed.
Oh, is this laser cut? Laser cut.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's like these cool like dragons that he makes, and then he like makes vases for our altars. So like there's these cool vases. So
wow,
he's doing a lot of awesome. His name's Nazar. He's this really cool guy who's been coming around. And of course he's been studying like Srimad Bhagavatam and all these scriptures for a long time. He's not like, he doesn't have a spiritual name or guru, but he's like, yeah, he's just constantly giving me presents, like these cool dragons and stuff. So
that is awesome. That's rainbow. I didn't see it first. It's like rainbow printed.
Yeah, it's rainbow printed. So
dude. Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. Like, if you do what you love all the time, you know what I mean? If you spend enough time. Do you do 108 gyatris a day? I think that's my hobby. You know what I
mean? Yeah, and you offer it, right? You offer it. Like you're offering your basically your beautiful conversation skills and knowledge about so many things to people, and bringing cool people who also interest that, and you're giving it to the world through the internet, man. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So
there's got to be a way to make it make sense. I feel like we're almost there. The next thing is going to be the Discord radio chats are going to come back, and I think that'll be huge, because the big thing was the group interacting with each other and what we could all. That's a huge thing, just being able to get everyone's perspectives to grow. So
yes.
But it does, yeah. We're just trying to get back on track and make it possible for us to focus on the parts of life that have been the most productive feeling,
Yeah, totally.
Dude, Will, I love you very much. We'll see
you
soon.
Too, brother.
You're Chandra.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Andreas. Haribol.
So long as I'm in this Oval Office.